So if I'm to look at this armchair now, the things that I'm not really fond of anymore are the shape of the armrests for a start. I think it's just too angular and it looks a bit dated now, I think, that shape. Another thing I do not like is how the bottom almost looks a little bit tapered in. And what I really do not like anymore is the shape of the back cushion and the sit cushion. I prefer when cushions have got an angle finished this way, if you can see the difference, and I would like to do the same thing to the seat cushion. So I'm going to take all the covers off and cut through the foam to expose the armrests in order to modify their shape, and then I'll also modify the shape of the back cushion and the sit cushion. And after, I will have to make covers for all of that, and it will have to be a pair because there's the other armchair there, so it's going to be a big job, but I'm quite enthusiastic about it. These look really shabby and dated. The quality was unfortunately a little bit disappointing on these, especially the quality of the covers. Within 2 years, I would say, they started having holes in them, and there's only so many blankets I can drape over the armrests before it starts looking suspicious. And so time has come to pimp these up.
Since last summer, I've been planning a few changes around our living room. Our old rug dated back to our days in New Zealand. After a solid 15 years of use, it had certainly earned its rest. I've always loved the look of jute for the warmth and texture it brings, and for how beautifully it complements wooden floors without ever clashing. So we replaced the old one with a simple jute rug from Ikea, a calm and neutral base to build upon. The sofa had also seen better days. The covers were worn thin and the seat cushions had lost their shape. We turned once again to Ikea for a timeless model and chose recycled linen covers from Bems. I'd been dreaming of a buttery yellow sofa for quite some time. It adds such a soft, cheerful note of colour, gentle enough to remain neutral yet full of light. And I love knowing that we can change the covers again in the future. Bems has such a beautiful selection to play with. Once all these new elements were in place, it was time to turn my attention back to the armchairs and work on the new slipcovers, the final touch to bring everything together. As the days grow cooler, I like to bring out a few silver pieces around the house. I find they add a sense of elegance and quiet glow, catching the soft light of the season in the most beautiful way. I'm so pleased with how the living room has come together. It feels much more me now. Do you remember the yellow room I painted not long ago? Well, this new sofa gives me that same feeling of joy and gentle energy each time I walk in. It's also slightly wider than the old one, which means one more person can sit comfortably. A small detail that makes a big difference, especially since we love having friends over. I've realized that autumn isn't naturally my favorite season, but projects like these help me embrace it. They make me look forward to being indoors again, surrounded by spaces that feel alive and evolving.
Hi everyone, I am really pleased to finally share the transformation of these armchairs. It's been going on for a few weeks. It took longer than I had expected, and a few days into it I remember telling myself, oh my goodness, have I bitten more than I could chew? But I soldiered on, and I'm really pleased that they are finished. They're not perfect at all, but I'm happy with the result, and it's more in the style that I'm moving towards. So you perhaps remember how the armrests had that very blunt angle, and how, I didn't like the bottom, that it was a little bit tapered. So we simply removed all the foam and exposed the armchair back to the wood, where we designed this curve and saw it off. I put the foam and the padding back in, sewed it all back together, and then it was time to sew the slipcovers. And that's probably the part that was longer than I thought, because I really wanted to get it as neat as possible. I used a couple of antique sheets to create the covers. I tried to find some that were as close to the other as possible. They are not identical, but I think you can't tell. And I changed the shape of the armrests, and I also changed the shape of the cushions. This one had a pillow sort of shape, so I simply added angles to it. So inside I sewed the cushion to create an angle, and then in the cover added the angle there. And I did the same here. That front was a lot rounder, and so the cushion inside I pulled and stitched to get that squarer shape, and then through the cover, making the corners very square, the cushion under sort of took the shape of the cover for a more more squared corners. And I made sure everything was washable and removable. And I know white can be polarizing choice perhaps for sitting, but I really like how white is easy to wash. And if there's a stain, you can wash it at a very high temperature, use bleach if you have to. So I quite like using white for seating. One detail I wanted to add was those pleats at the bottom. I really wanted to add a point of interest, and I thought, okay, with that little table with the Greek key, I really wanted to go down that neoclassic style that I love so much, and so I thought of those Greek pleats, and I think they look really nice and really add something to the armchairs. To create the covers, basically the technique is to put your fabric right side against your armchair or your sofa, pin your fabric along the lines of your armchair. So there is one piece here, there's another one there, and you do that everywhere. You pin and you cut along your pins, and then once you've done that with all your pieces, you simply pin your pieces together everywhere, and then all you have to do with your sewing machine is to sew along the pin lines. Then you turn your cover inside out, and you should have a nearly finished cover. You may have to tweak a few things, which is what I did in these areas. They are not perfect, but it's very hard to get a curve without pleats. But yeah, you can go back to it and tweak things. So I made this cover, the cushion covers, and once that was all done, only then I added my pleated pieces, which I created separately. So I made 4 pleated pieces per armchair, and so I put all the slipcover back on with the cushions to make sure that I had a straight line and the perfect height to sew my pleated pieces onto the slipcover. So I think that's all the infos that I needed. If you have more questions, please do ask me. It's definitely not for beginners, but you don't have to be an incredible sewer to do this. I think you need to have patience and be quite meticulous. But if you take your time, it's not actually hard. So I hope that this process was interesting to follow, and that it would perhaps have motivated you to work on your own covers.